Hello and welcome to D Tycoon Community Unity Now. This is a show that was founded
Recording
by
in progress.
Reverend Dr. Catherine Brown D Tycoon, and the show is called Community Unity Now because this is what it's all about. I'm Bill Morton, your co-host. I'm president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and we have with us today administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce and co-host Trudy Leong. And we have our guest today, Community Programs Director at H.O.M.E, Housing Opportunity and Maintenance for the Elderly, Mike Laz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. First
Of
of all,
course.
could you tell us what programs do you oversee at H.O.M.E, housing opportunities and maintenance for the elderly, and could you briefly describe these programs?
Sure. So at home, we have several community programs. Our they're all kind of signature programs, but the first program is our Upkeep and Repair services for seniors. We help senior homeowners on the south and west side of the city with minor indoor repairs, things like leaky faucets, faulty light switches, putting in handrails, grab bars in the bathroom, making sure they have working, smoke and carbon detectors, any sort of small handyman repair jobs. We have our own staff, 3 full-time repairmen, we call them home repair specialists, that go in and do those repairs. We also have kind of like an arm of our Upkeep and Repair services. We have a contract with the city for their repair program called Small Accessible Repairs for Seniors, known as SARFS. And under that program, we do similar types of repairs. Under that program, there's a different process. The seniors would call and talk to me. I have to go to the home and we have to do an application that the city requires. And if that contract is approved, then that work is done free of charge. Under our program, just through our nonprofit, we charge a $25 service fee, and we ask the homeowner to be able to pay for any cost of parts and materials. And again, everything is just interior only and nothing, major. We don't do furnaces or anything like that. It's just minor plumbing and electrical and other small safety related issues. We also have a moving service. We do not have a crew and a truck for moving. What we provide is a move coordinator, or you think of her as a caseworker. She goes out to the person who needs to move, does an income verification and move assessment. And if we can get that person into the move schedule, Judy will work on doing that. For that service, we do ask for a $25 service fee. We are able to provide packing materials like boxes and tape and etc., although we don't assist with the physical packing process. And what we do is hire professional moving companies. They charge their regular rates, and then what the client may pay towards the end cost of that move is based on their income. We have a sliding fee scale. So they may have to pay, towards some of the move costs based on what their income is. But again, they pay no matter what their income is, they pay a service fee of $25, only if they're going to be a client, not if Judy does the home visit and they end up not being a client. We're limited to about 52 moves a year, so our schedule does fill in pretty quickly, but we are able to, assist those people who need, assistance with that process. And that is open for everyone, renters. Most of the people we move are renters, where the home, repair services are for homeowners. We also have a shopping bus service. We contract with the different management companies within the city of Chicago for the senior buildings to pick up the residents and take them to the grocery store. Again, so the seniors don't incur a charge, but we do contract with the management companies of the senior buildings. So, Ernest is our bus driver. He's fantastic. He's been with the agency a little bit longer than me. He was one of our movers when we had our own moving program back when I started. And since I've mentioned Ernest and Judy, I would be neglectful if I didn't mention our 3 repair specialists, Andre, Nate, and Johnny, all awesome people. But for the shopping bus service, again, if they we pick the seniors up, but whatever their location is, we take them to a nearby grocery store. Ernest, helps the seniors around the store for those who need it. And then he helps the seniors back, into the building with their groceries. They get 1 hour to shop from the time that we drop them off at the store, not from the time they're picked up. So that's a great service. I mean, there's a lot of food insecurity out there. So it really is a very helpful. I mean, just imagine seniors who, yeah, we have great CTA system, but seniors can't really get to the grocery store on 2 buses and then get their groceries and get back to their to their buildings. So shopping bus service is an essential service to help seniors who are suffering with food insecurities. And then we do have a volunteer program, which unfortunately is on hiatus right now and has been since the virus started. With our volunteer services, we will use volunteers at our 3 buildings that we own and operate for senior living. And then out in the community, we offer in the summer interior painting, or it's just strictly painting. I get a lot of, in normal time, youth groups who will, faith-based youth groups who will come in, paint 3 or 4 rooms in a home. It is strictly just painting. They will clean things, but they can't do any patching or drywalling or that kind of thing. But they will do a nice job painting. And in the fall, October through around December, we have what we call our Weatherization Service, where we have corporate groups and youth groups who volunteer with us to come into the homes and install the insulation plastic over the windows. So again, it's, weatherization is a catch-all term with a lot of different organizations. We simply just put up the plastic over the windows, which helps a lot to insulate the home. But, it's not fiberglass insulation in the attic or anything more complicated than just putting up the plastic on the windows. So those are our community programs. And for the volunteer services, for the painting and weatherization, there is no charge for that. There is no service fee for that. That is done just through the generosity of the volunteer groups.
So that sounds like a very comprehensive program schedule. How often with the shopping bus? How often do you guys do the shopping bus to go to the grocery stores with your residents?
Sure. Well, that's up to the individual management companies. We have one building that gets every week service. You can get once a month service. You can get every other week service. We have one building that does once every other month, and the fee, of course, is dependent upon the frequency of service.
So how many buildings do you service now? And when you say 1 hour, so when the driver arrives at one store, then the shoppers have 1 hour to shop at that store, or is it 1 hour for the entire trip, all 3 stores, if they need to go to several stores?
No, it's 1 hour to shop once they're in the store. It's usually just one location, but there are, in some cases, like if there's a Jewel and a dollar store in the same sort of mall, they can go to whichever one, but there's not like a half-hour stop at one store and then a half-hour stop at another store. It's usually just one location. And that location is generally has to be somewhere within a close proximity to the building, because then we have another building to pick up, after that. Right now we're serving 21 buildings. We generally, pre-COVID, we had 30. There's still several buildings that have not resumed service, because of the pandemic. I check in on them once in a while to see if they're ready, but they will be ready to start service again whenever they feel that it's safe enough to start service again. But we have very strict protocol with our bus. I mean, Ernest wipes the bus down, inside the bus. Again, it's a 12-passenger bus with an additional 2 spots for wheelchairs. So it's not like this very large, vehicle, but he does wipe the bus down after every service, and so it is clean and sanitized all the time. But right now, yeah, we're serving 21 buildings.
And is it usually the buildings that come to you and ask for the service, or is it the residents? How do you do the intake for buildings?
Sure. So I mean, if a resident, for example, would call and say like, "Oh, I live in so-and-so building, and my friend lives in this building, and they're getting bus service," I will instruct that person to contact their building manager and or RSC. For those who don't know what RSC is, it means Resident Service Coordinator. So that's a person in that building that's in charge of finding services for the residents. And then that person will contact me. And once we get everything worked out with the bottom line is we have to get it worked out with whoever's going to pay the monthly service, pay for the monthly service. In a lot of cases, the resident service coordinators want the bus to show up, but then they get, there's a hang up with, just to be blunt, hang up with the check signers. They like, well, we can't afford it right now. So unfortunately, we're not able to, then service that building.
So you have all these affordable intergenerational buildings, and all these programs are some of these programs only for the elderly, or can everyone participate?
Okay, so There's 3 buildings that we own and operate for senior living. Now that's not part of under my jurisdiction, but so the other buildings that we're serving for the bus, those are not buildings that we own and operate. Those are operated by other, management companies, just to make that clear. But for all of our services, you have to be either 62 and over. Well, I'm sorry. Let me speak. The bus riders, because we're picking up at senior buildings, we're just assuming that they're of age to be part of our service because they're in a senior building. But with the moving service and the upkeep and repair services, you have to be 62 and over, or 55 and over with disability. For the upkeep and repair services, we ask for the income level has to be $1,200 a month or less, but we do take into account the mortgage payments. So as long as their income minus their mortgage falls at $1,200, that would qualify them for our service. With the moving service, there's not necessarily there's not an income qualification for service, but depending on how high their income is, I mean, we've moved people who had to pay for the full cost of the move themselves. They just liked the fact that Judy was going to be there to, on move day and deal with the movers, and they didn't have to do that. So they were happy to pay the full service, the full cost of the move, just to not have to, and have us there, just so they didn't have to, just call the moving company and schedule it and whatnot. So that, that was just a relief for them. That that particular senior. That they don't, I don't have to call the moving company. You're going to do it, and fine. They didn't. They were happy to pay the full services.
You mentioned your own buildings, housing opportunities and maintenance for the elderly buildings. So, do they have any shopping program? If they're not participating in the shopping bus, but is there any shopping service with them separately?
So we do not service our own buildings, but at 2 of the locations, we provide meals to some of the seniors. There's what we call we have our own resident service coordinators who provide meals and things. But part of our the building, Natalie Selman at 7320 North Sheridan, is intergenerational. So there's a number of the first 4 floors are all independent senior living. Folks can get around, on their own. The 5th floor there, called Good Life Senior Residence, that's where we provide meals and things. And we do have 2. Each building, the Natalie Selman House and Pat Crowley House, has a vehicle, and we can take them to the store, but it's not part of our shopping bus service. So just to be clear, so that we do take the residents that need to get places to those places, but it's not part of our actual shopping bus program.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how home housing opportunities and maintenance for the elderly decides on these services? Because all these services are very essential, but how do you know how Home came to decide to concentrate on these services?
Sure. Well, this goes back. I mean, Home is going to be celebrating its 40th year of existence this year. So this goes back to our founders, Michael and Lilo Salmon. When they first started the organization, they recognized these particular needs that were lacking in the senior community. Things like food insecurity, things like when seniors did need to move from one location to another, the lack of friends and relatives that were either able to help them and assist in the actual moving process because they were all of the same age, or they just didn't really some of these folks were sort of like loners in a way. So they realized that there's need for moving assistance. And then of course the big thing with the upkeep and repair services is that we want it's better to keep seniors in their home. And if it meant just going in and making some of these minor repairs or making things a little more accessible for them, safer for them, let's do that so they can stay in their home and they don't have to move to an assisted living or another location just because they can't upkeep their property anymore. So the Selmans recognized these needs that were out there, and they're the ones who kind of developed these key components of why we still do what we do.
Do you have any resources to recommend to seniors? Let's say if they really need a more extensive repair and they don't know where to go, are you able to provide some help with finding someone to help them with that, even though you can't do it?
Well, the lack of resources that are available out there to seniors is very, very sparse. And like just as an example, for our services for upkeep and repair we have a 4-month long waiting list, and that's been that way for a number of years. That's not even related to COVID. Now, we do, of course, when I say a 4-month long waiting list, to make it more clear, it's long, but it's not like if somebody, like the people who called today and got put on my waiting list, it's not going to be 4 months to the date from today that we may be calling them. We do, because of the lack of resources, have to prioritize needs. Like if someone has a non-working toilet, that's obviously not going to be a 4-month long wait. We're going to get out there, sooner than later for that, than the 4 months. But it is just an extensive wait because the lack of resources that are out there are very limited. Other than the other 13 organizations that have a small contract with the city for the SARFS program, there isn't any other organization that provides home repair services like we do. And then as far as the bigger, things like roofing and all these other things, we do not have a list of vetted contractors that we know we could send to a home and that are going to, be fair about what they're going to do with the work. The thing about home in our community, what our name out there in the community, it's very safe, and people know they can trust home. If they know if home is sending someone to their home, if it's not a home staff member, they know that they can trust this person. So we don't have like a list of contractors because we don't want to just say, oh, I'll call, I don't want to say ABC Plumbing because that's an actual real company, WYZ Plumbing, because they're okay. We don't do that. So unfortunately, no, there's generally not a list of referrals. And just to make the answer a little longer, sorry, but it took me a number of years to realize that I'm just giving people numbers that in about 15 minutes that they're going to get back to me anyway, because they're going to call around at a city and other social service agencies, and home is like the magic, phone number for all these other social service agencies, the city 311, home help seniors. So eventually they're going to end up getting back to me anyway. So I'm very honest with them and tell them that there's really not a lot of other, help out there. So unfortunately, again, the long answer to your question is no, there's not really anybody to refer to for these kinds of things.
So you mentioned the reputation of home housing opportunities and maintenance for the elderly, and I've been to many events over on Sheridan Road, Sheridan and Sherwin location over the years. Mm-hmm. Art shows or art galleries. I've been to barbecues. The chamber has hosted financial literacy events in the location, and it's always been, everyone there has been so friendly and welcoming over all of these years. And the reputation is impeccable. I was wondering, do these events that I mentioned, like the barbecues with the community members and things like that, does that fall under you as a program, or is that something different?
That would fall under, like, currently we have a housing director, like similar to my role, but just with housing. Her name is Nikki. So she would be taking care of all that. In previous years, it's been whoever was, in charge of housing. We have had various coordinators and various people that have done that over the years. But so the housing is separate from our community service programs. And even though I've been with Home for 18 years, my hands are always so full with the community programs. I know a little bit about our housing by osmosis, but but I don't know as much as I should, even though I don't, just because of my length of time there. But no, that's all handled through our housing director, and the particular manager at Nellie Summon right now, Jim, would also be the person who would be setting things up there if there was going to be events. We hope soon to be getting back to events, but as again, not to beat the drum, but we all know that things are just not happening right now for a lot of reasons. So
and that was my follow-up question. How are you managing your services with the pandemic raging?
Well, at this point, we've been working full service now for a year. Prior to that, there was a couple of stretches of time where we were shut down with the programs. But what we do, all the requirements, we're wearing masks in the homes when we're doing repairs, and sometimes a face shield. All my repairmen have face shields should the homeowner request that, but everybody wears a mask. Sanitize. We're following all the protocols that are being that are out there for everybody to follow. hopefully, and I don't foresee any more shutdowns, but like I said, I think we shut down for sure. It's all a blur, really. I know we shut down twice. Maybe it was there was a third time where we had a limited shutdown. But we're doing the best we can with what the services are. Like I mentioned, I mean, there's still several bus buildings that we served with a shopping bus who are still not comfortable with resuming service, and mostly, and I get why. I mean, it's like, they don't want people going out there and maybe picking up COVID and then spreading it through the building. So it's I understand why. So it's just, but hopefully we're all getting back to full services soon. But again, our upkeep and repair services and moving service have been going now uninterrupted for the last year.
So for the maintenance side, talking about maybe somebody's a hoarder, maybe there's some pest issue or something like that. How do you take care of these things?
Sure. Well, so there's two programs that deal with that. So with the upkeep and repair services, we don't do anything with pest control, rodent remediation, anything like that. Now, I've been in the homes on my home visits, for things, because when I go out to the homes for the SARFS program to do the application, I go in the homes and it's a definite hoarding situation, but that doesn't affect the repairs. As long as the repairs can be done, or we need to get for the repairs, we'll take care of that. Now, the moving program is another situation. Our move coordinator has been in homes, and I've been in homes, and she sent me pictures where, I mean, a person's in this apartment, and it's unfortunate, but professional moving companies aren't going to walk. They're just going to walk in and be like, no, we can't. What are we supposed to do here? We can't move this person. So, unfortunately, in some of those situations, Trudy gives some direction as to what can be, maybe help a little bit with it, but to try to pare things down, and she'll do a follow-up visit to see if anything has been done with the hoarding. But in some cases, there's just, I mean, I've learned a little bit about hoarding just because of my job, but I don't understand the full aspects of it, like how somebody gets to that point. But unfortunately, there's just not a lot that can be done. Again, it's another one of those resources that are out there that lack. And even the city, when they had their heavy duty chore program, which is kind of on again and off again, and honestly, I'm not sure what the status is with that, but the senior has to want the help. I mean, they have to want to be open to a crew coming in and basically throwing things out. And a lot of times, when they're a hoarder, that's just a situation. I mean, that's part of the problem. In that person's mind, they need all of that stuff. This is all my stuff, and I want to take it with me. So it's a difficult situation.
Do you use satisfaction surveys with the seniors that you serve? And if so, do you ask for suggestions? And if you do, what are the most common suggestions?
Well, so yes, we use satisfaction surveys for all of our programs, and they're all geared specifically towards those programs. Like the questions, because like with the shopping bus, it's, everybody just gives Ernest like 5 stars. They love him. He's great with the seniors. I mean, but their biggest issue is they want more time in the store, because it's hard for them to even, an hour seems like a lot of time, but I always picture all these seniors, like when I used to go shopping with my grandmother when I was like, 14, 15 years old, and she would go, by her list, and the list could say flour, and the first thing, and she would get that. And if the next thing was milk, she'd go 5 aisles over to get the milk. The next thing is sugar. Now she's going way back to where she just came from. And that's what I picture all these seniors shopping, in the store. It's like, they're just going around the whole store. Like, so they want more time. That's the bottom line, is they would like more time. With the moving service, the biggest issue is, with packing assistance, but we haven't figured out a way to do that. Even like under pre-pandemic times, using volunteers for packing just opens up a lot of liability, for like something's missing, something's not there, and then what? And then what do you do? So there's that's one of the biggest roadblocks, obstacles, if you will, with the moving program, is to get packing assistance. And of course, with the upkeep and repair services, given it's a 4-month-long wait list, it's the wait time sometimes, and it's also just like expanding the scope of our repairs, because we can fix like leaks and things like that, but we don't do any drywalling. So if there's a leak in the wall, our repairman will explain, we can go into the wall and fix the leak, but we can't then re-drywall it. Well, of course, the most important thing is to stop the water. So we'll do that as long as the senior agrees with the fact that we can't drywall it. So again, that's just, so it's like lack of, not lack of, just expanding what we offer through our repair services and, the length of time that people have had to wait for the service. But they're all very understanding. I mean, they understand, like, we're really the only place. And that's why because they always say, well, is there anyone else I can call so I don't have to wait so long? Well, if there was, then you wouldn't have to wait so long. That's the problem. It's like what is that, like an infinity loop? It's like, it's just like, it's like there's not any other services. So yeah, but the biggest thing is, the biggest thing is we have usually over a 90% return rate with our satisfaction surveys. We mail those out with a self-return envelope, and we get over a 90% return rate with our surveys, which is pretty good. Well, more than pretty good, it's really good. So people that we help are really invested in getting that feedback back to us.
So with all these requests, are you planning any expansion of any of your programs?
Well, interestingly, we are right now in the midst of our next 3-year strategic plan. We're kind of getting to the finalization of that. And of course, we always want to expand our programs. But what does it come down to? What does anything come down to, right? Money, 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 right? So in order to add a 4th repair specialist, for instance, that's, getting a vehicle and tools and a van. I already said, I'm sorry, a van, but, all the tools and that are necessary. So, it's an expensive undertaking. We've had a lot of generous foundations who said, we'll give you enough money to add a 4th, repairman, service, repair service specialist for this year. But then it's like that. What happens after that? Now you have another person on payroll, and after that first initial influx of money to start that, to add that person, now you have another person on payroll. And all. So it's all about funding. We would love to have a larger moving scope. We would love to be having enough fleet of buses to serve all the senior buildings in Chicago that want the service. And somehow it's being funded through, not even like somewhere else, not even the management companies. But, it's all about, funding. That's just the bottom line. And yes, we're always looking for opportunities to expand our services.
Mike, could you give our viewers contact information if they want to apply to any of your programs
Sure.
Programs?
Well, they could call me on one of 2 numbers. The main office number is 773-921-3200. That rings at my desk. But then my desk line is 773-295-2709. So both of those numbers will ring at my desk, and they will get me. And I'm there every day, and I have been ever since the pandemic started, because it was just good for me, okay for me to do so. There's not like a bunch of people working in the office. So they're going to reach me if they call that number. They may have to leave a voicemail because I'm often on the phone all the time, but I will return their call. And if someone's more comfortable with technology, they can email me at Mike L. So that's just Mike, M-I-K-E, the letter L, at H.O.M.E Seniors, plural, seniors.org. And the .org is important because that's, we're a nonprofit, so we have the .org, not .com or .edu. It's .org.
Thank you so much, Mike Laz, Community Programs Director of H.O.M.E, Housing Opportunity and Maintenance for the Elderly. Wonderful nonprofit organization. I've done so much with them over the years, and I really appreciate you being our guest. And thank you to Trudy Leong, our co-host, who's at home by way of Zoom. And thank you to Reverend Dr. Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, who is the founder of this show, Community Unity Now D. Tycoon. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Trudy. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Bill.